Hey guys, welcome to the Daily Word Bible Study, plain and simple, book by book, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse study through the entire Bible. Currently, we are in Proverbs chapter 22. Now, Proverbs chapter 22, there are too many good nuggets, pearls of wisdom to just kind of gloss by. So I've kind of been lingering in this chapter. Again, the wisdom that is given here is not the proverbial sounding wisdom. You know, when people talk in a low, mellow tone and they spout out what people think, the butterfly sees the wind and the wings flap underneath. I just made that up, of course, and that's nowhere near wisdom. But if I sound like that with glazed eyes, people think, well, that's wisdom. Reality is not wisdom. So, um, oh, by the way, I don't know if y'all can hear this sign right here, but we are in the midst of graduation celebration. So if you hear that, that's music, and everybody's into, like I say, graduation day. Anyway, um, but excuse me. So there's a lot of pearls of wisdom. Jesus' wisdom, God's wisdom, was not made for the high and lofty. You know, the intellectually superior, if you want to call them that. But this wisdom we could grab hold of. The essence of it is we can grab hold of it and apply it to our lives. So let's get to it. Proverbs 22. Now we left off at verse 16 when it says, foolishness is bound in the heart of a youth, or foolishness is tangled up in the heart of a youth. The rod of discipline will drive it far from him. Take a little time to deal with this, because as we these nuggets of wisdom in terms of raising kids, wise kids. Now remember, wisdom is the discernment. It is the application of knowledge. Wisdom is believing in God, believing God, and obeying God. Contrast to what he's been, uh, a fool or foolishness is a person who does not obey God, a person who does not believe in God, a person who does not believe God. And that's the foolishness, okay? A fool sees his own way as right, even though it could be wrong. That's a fool. All right, so he says, foolishness is tangled up in the heart of a youth, but the rod of discipline would drive it far from him. And again, this is a general statement. So how do you apply this? With wisdom. All right. More so with wisdom, however, there is, when you're talking about with children, the assumption here is that you are present in their life. Wisdom, the biggest thing about parenting, well, one of the biggest major steps in parenting is to be there. And again, there's a lot of things about this application would require your perspective of life. And different cultures, by the way, handle their children differently. Different applications. You know, agrarian societies is different than, let's say, city life. In our culture, one of the problems is the necessity of having things. That necessity of having things mean that we need to work to get money. On the other hand, you could have money, but the greed of keeping money and increasing it takes you away from children or raising kids. Ideally, a mother and father, but it's not, you don't have to have a mother and father. You really don't. You can have one or the other. Every day, you have parents dying, one or the other, through wars, accidents, crime, illnesses. So what do you do when a spouse both parents are taken away. It falls on the remaining parent. And so your duty then means that I need to devote myself to raising kids, and it can happen. So the first thing about it is that foolishness is tangled up. The first thing we need to understand, of course, is that foolishness is bound in the heart of a child. The first thing is that foolishness is there through the sinful nature. You start with that, and we all have it. Some of us never get over it. Some of us never mature out of it. And all of us will deal with it in our lives. But notice what he says. It's tangled up in the heart of a youth, but the rod of discipline will drive it far from him. So we think about that, the practical application of foolishness, which we all do. Think about it. Going around the states, and here's something that's foolish. Going around the states, the country right now, is the federal government is going after people who took fraudulent loans during the time of COVID. This is what you call foolishness. People, for greed's sake, lied and got money. Now watch this. 10, 20, 30, 50, $60,000 and up. They got money, COVID money. In this particular case, now a lot of people got money. The government gave out an unbelievable amount of money. But this is an example of foolishness though. Some people, they had churches, businesses, that was legit. Stupid on the government part, but that was legit. So in this case, people lied and took money. They said they had businesses, but didn't. And as a result now, thousands, tens of thousands of people are facing the federal justice. Many of them are losing their jobs. In other words, that foolishness, see, is causing a lot of hardships, self-inflicted. That's what he means when he says foolishness is tangled up in the heart of youth, but the rod of discipline would drive it far from him. On the other hand, there were a lot of people that were tempted to get these fraudulent loans, but said, I'm not going to go that way. That's just a snippet of the example when we say this kind of foolishness. I mean, we could apply this all across the board. All right, let's get on. Verse 16 says, oppressing the poor to enrich oneself and giving to the rich both lead only to poverty. Listen closely. Pay attention to the word of the wise and apply your mind to my knowledge. For it is pleasing if you keep them within you, and if they are constantly on your lips. I have instructed you today, even you, so that your confidence may be in the Lord. Now, this is probably one of the, again, greatest accomplishment as a parent. He says, I've instructed you today, even you, so that your confidence may be in the Lord. Now, this tells me two things here. Or it actually tells us a lot. But notice the idea of kids growing up in the Lord. There's no mention of children's church here. Now, that's not to say the children's church is not good in churches. The problem is that parents, over time, shifted the teaching and instruction of the Lord to children's church. And that's the foolishness. Churches today, some of your church growth strategy churches, the element of having a children's church, and it doesn't matter what their children's church is doing as long as they have one. In other words, if you don't have a children's church, your church is not going to grow. That's among other kind of other things, but worship, right? The kind of worship, the elements of church growth, it's worship, the kind of special kind of worship, not just singing, but you got to have a band or an orchestra. And then, but children's church is another. Essential. Those two things right now, if you want to grow a church, it doesn't matter what kind of worship it is, it doesn't matter what kind of children's church. You just have to have those kind. And you're going to attract people. People are going to come and go, you don't have no children's church? You got to turn around and walk away. It's their time to escape. Dump the kids off in the children's church, and then they go to the big church and they worship or pretend to. But notice here, he says, I have instructed you that your confidence may be in the Lord. It has always been the job of the parents to teach. I'm going to go out and going to say even further. This whole issue today about what is going on in public schools. Right here, think about this. And we have a lot of issues in public schools, whether it's trans issue, abortion issues, all of these kind of issues that Christians have made kind of issue out of. If you're not instructing your kids at home, yeah, your kids are going to fall victim to the mentality. Let's go further. Going down to college, right? The college had the potential of making more atheists than anything else, making atheists out of people. Why? If you're not instructing your kids, he says that your confidence may be in the Lord. That's the key, that your confidence may be in the Lord. That is really the foundational main goal of parenting. In other words, if your pride is that, you know, I have a kid that graduated from college, okay, but they're atheists, they're ungodly. As Jesus said, what does it profit the man if he gains the whole world but loses his soul? The foundation that you have. Notice he said, and then two, notice instruct. That involves teaching. So that's why I said it's not only just discipline, but it's instructing, but it's also nurturing. Those are the elements of raising a kid. Instruction / teaching. Yes, discipline when appropriate and applicable. And nurturing, raising them up in a nurture. How many kids do not have a nurturing home? How many children do not feel loved in their home? All of those three are important. So he says, I've instructed you that your confidence may be in the Lord. Again, it starts and finishes in the home. Verse 20, haven't I written you 30 sayings about counsel and knowledge in order to teach you true and reliable words so that you may give a dependable report to those who sent you? Okay. Verse 22, don't rob a poor man because he is poor, and don't crush the oppressed at the gates, for the Lord will take up their case, and will plunder those who plunder them. Don't make friends with an angry man, and don't be a companion of a hot-tempered man, or you will learn his ways and entangle yourself in a snare. Now, this is so true. Now, remember, one proverb says, if you keep rescuing an angry man, you will continually do it. Now, think about this. If you are friends with a person, a hot-tempered person, you're going to get entangled in that snare. You're going to get caught up in some of the same foolishness and nonsense that ill-tempered man can. Watch this. Today, we may call some of this road rage, mob mentality, getting into a fights, violent fights. Verse 26, don't be one of those who enter agreements, who put up security for loans. If you have no money to pay, even your bed will be taken from under you. Now, again, we see this repeatedly over and over again talking about being a security for loan. Don't be a security for those who entered agreements or put up security for loan. In other words, it is you're banking your future on someone else's actions. And as I told you before, I've met people who have begged to be security and for co-signing, and then they default, and then you're stuck with it. And that's what he's saying right here. It is utterly foolish to do that. Verse 27, if you have the money to pay, even your bed will be taken from under you. In other words, if you don't have money, well, put it like this, in our culture today, when you co-sign for a loan, most they don't even have to consult you. So let's say party A, you co-sign for party A, and then you're party B. Party A defaults on the loan. Next thing you know, you have a wage assignment on your check, and you wonder, where did this wage assignment go? Well, so and so default. Now here's the thing: if the person don't have money, guess what? It doesn't matter if a person. One of the foolish reasons why you should not. One of the reasons I should say, one of the reasons why you shouldn't co-sign, because you're banking on someone else's future. What if they get sick? So you co-sign on a car, a $20,000-$30,000 car. What if they crash the car and they say, I don't want it? That's one thing. But if they're unscrupulous, they just don't pay. Secondly, what if they get sick and can't pay? Or how about lose their job and can't pay? Okay? It's on you. That's what it is. It's on you. Verse 28, don't move an ancient boundary markers that your fathers set up. Boundaries, okay? Now, these days we have plot plans, so it's kind of harder to do that. Even though I don't understand squatters. I don't understand squatting laws. Why do they exist? He says, do you see a man, verse 29, do you see a man skilled in his work? He will stand in the presence of kings. He will not stand in the presence of unknown men. Now, this is certainly true, that whatever particular skill, different kinds of skills can put you before the privileged, kings, presidents, right? People hear about this person can do as simple as hair, makeup, write speeches, whatever, okay? The point is, if you are skilled at your work. Now, there's another, I think, principle to me that we could draw from this. Being skilled. Children who are graduating from high school and they begin to embark on their adult life should be encouraged, pushed, trained to make themselves valuable. And one of the ways that you make yourself valuable is to, in this case, put it like this, skilled in his work. Now, we could say, how am I skilled in my work? Well, one, education-wise, if you're a trades, be the best tradesman, be the best carpenter, be the best plumber, and then you're skilled. Your reputation will go before you. When you have a degree, that degree states that you have a certain skill. Whether it's true or not, we know it's not always true. But it may be true in a certain field of work. The point is, that's how you make yourself valuable as a person. That's how you can go from one job to another. You can go to one city, one state, another, and always what? Have your skill. Now, if you don't have your skill, guess what? You don't have that. All right, guys, don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to BP the Bible Perspective. And as always, if you have a thought or comment, add it to the comment section below. All comments are welcome. And I will see you in the next study.